Well, and today, you know, immigration is something that is a hot topic in the media, and we are a country now that are seeing more migrations into the U.S. from various parts of the world and larger immigrant populations. What is it that you feel this book can contribute to an understanding of how we should deal with the immigration issue?
I think one of the things that hopefully it does, like for instance, say in the Southwest on how unfortunately our Mexican friends are treated, how they're totally shunned and go through a lot of issues. I think it hopefully shows that they're human beings, that they're to be respected, that they come from a good background, and we need to make uniform laws on immigration based upon the character of individuals and what they bring to the U.S., as opposed to having a bias that the bias is based upon the person's, instead of using race, skin coloring, because that's all it is. If you, at autopsy, if you look at any person, you can't tell a black heart from a white heart from a Mexican. So we need to be more cognizant for that as we make those type of determinations.
Well, and I also think that it has a lot to do with how one assimilates into the society, a larger society, and also bring aspects of their culture into their assimilation that can really strengthen the nation. I don't think immigration is something that we should necessarily dread, but we can appreciate and re-energize ourselves by what others can bring into America to keep America moving ahead and building its strength.
Certainly, and I certainly agree with you. And not only do we have to be sensitive to immigration, but I think we have to be sensitive to our own people. We have to be sensitive to poor black families trying to make it. We have to be sensitive to poor white families that are trying to make it. That a lot of times I think our government fails to extend a helping hand to keep the core fabric of our neighborhoods and our cities together, because it starts there before we can do anything else.
And we have a society now which people are really closer together in terms of living standards because of economic situations, migrations, and a number of forces have impacted how we live today. So this segregation that we once knew is really kind of becoming sort of a thing of the past, because it's necessary for us to engage and interact with other people in order for us to really survive.
We certainly do. I think if you're going to exist in this modern society, I think you have to learn how to interface with other races. I remember when I was a young man and I went to Dunbar, I had a gigantic afro. Now, in order to go to college and get decent jobs, I had to shed the afro. I had to learn how to intermingle and interact with other races. Now, it doesn't mean that I forgot my blackness. It just meant that I had to understand that in this global village, you have to learn how to deal with others.
Well, and that's one of the things that I appreciated about your book, is that you were bringing in a number of cultural elements in various cultures and showing how the dynamic of these cultures operated, how the characters embraced one another or shunned one another. There was a lot of controversy in the book as well. And in addition to the central character, David, he was married, and he married a woman of Caucasian race, and she seemed to be more embracing of African American culture than David did.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
So how is it that you feel someone like David can learn to appreciate the value of their particular culture?
I think what, in this instance, because David is married to a Caucasian woman, and this is not a indictment against interracial relationships, I think the key what David's out there have to do, love who you are, love your heritage, and if whoever you choose to be with, whether they're purple or white or green or Asian or whatever, love them, love your race, love them with all their heart, but don't compromise and don't lose sight of who you are.
So what experiences have you had that you feel are similar to the character David?
I think the main thing that's my similarities, like anybody that's listening to this broadcast that's a Mexican or a black man, or certainly regular profiling, driving down the street and maybe an officer has no reason to stop you, and yet you get the old, your light above the license plate is allegedly not not proper. I think those are the main things that I get, or people judging you often because you are a person from a different race.
And how are you not like David? What's the difference?
I think the big difference is that one, I love my culture. I love other cultures. I believe that also too, I do believe in being moral. I believe in building the community. So I think those are some of the big things. Like in the book, Just Another End, David doesn't believe in doing any charity work. It's only about him, the love of the flesh and the pride of life. That's the mantra that I use to describe David Williams is money, arrogance, greed, prestige are the lubricants that move the wheels of his decision-making process. And that's basically how he conducts his affairs in every variable.
Okay. This is Stepping in the Spirit, and we've been talking with Darius Stephens, the author of the book Just Another End. And Darius, I'd like you to set up a portion of the book to share with the viewers to give us a sense of the feeling of the character David.
Okay. There's a scene in the book where David and his wife encounter a stray animal, and they consult with the pound about the possibility of taking this animal in. And I'll read from that particular segment right here. They're taking the dog home. By the time he got to home, the fence was in and the collar was on Jake. That's the dog, is Jake. David spent time getting to know him, petting him, playing fetch with him, and wrestling with him. They were both tired and feeling played out after that, but Jordan wanted to take Jake for a walk through the neighborhood to the park to see how Jake interacted with children. She put the harness on him and started out the front door, calling to David, "Jake and I are going to the park. We'll be right back." "Hold up, I'll come with you. I want to see how well he's trained to the leash," David said. On their walk, a little boy with brown, silky hair came up and asked if he could pet Jake. David took this little one's hand and guided it to the top of Jake's head, and then he let him pet Jake himself. As he did, David stroked the little boy's hair. He could picture a baby boy or girl with brown, silky hair like Jordan's. He never could picture a dark-skinned baby that grew into a boy or girl with nappy hair. If he ever did allow his genes into an imaginary picture, the child was like him a little, but with lighter skin and good hair. When they got to the park, there were a lot of kids there, kids of all races and most with their parents. Everyone was out enjoying the good weather, the parents trying to wear their kids out before bedtime by coming here to play. It turned out Jake was a real kid magnet. Jordan loved talking to all the children who came up wanting to acquaint themselves with Jake, but at a certain point she realized that David would interact with only the white children. After a darling little black girl said goodbye to Jake, Jordan asked, "Was that the sweetest little girl, David? So beautiful." "She looked kind of like what I picture our child would look like." "No, I didn't see her," he answered, and he hadn't.
So if someone, and that was a great passage, if someone wanted to find out more about the book and about you, how could they contact you?
Well, there's a website. It's www.dariusstephens.com. That's STEPHENS. Also, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm D. Stephens Author on Twitter. And also my agent, super agent, is Natalie Kim Rodriguez.
Okay. And she is agent here in the city?
No, she's New York and Florida based.
Oh, okay. So I understand the book has been reviewed as well?
Yes, the book was reviewed in the Dayton City paper, got an excellent review. It also, also the Dayton Defender did a great review of it also. Also, there was a radio show, the Jordan Rich Show out of Boston. It was a syndicated show, WBZ, a CBS AM affiliate. It was covered in 38 states and even part of Canada.
Okay, what's next for you in the future with the book?
Right now what we're doing, there's a number of conferences that we will be probably there in person. Also, there's a number of radio interviews, and also I'm working on the sequel to Just Another End.
Okay, and the sequel is going to pick up and share more about David's story, or does it go into other characters?
The sequel goes into David Williams a little bit more, and it goes into some of the other characters.
Okay, all right. So if you can you kind of give us a summary of the takeaway you would like people to gain from this book?
I think the main takeaway I would have people that read this work of commercial fiction, that at the end of the day, that regardless of whether you're black or white, Mexican or Asian, we all need each other in this global village. Another thing I would make sure that our people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. I think that what we need to do is make sure that all of us eradicate the N-word. There's no difference whether you say N-I-G-G-A or N-I-G-G-E-R. They're the same, and a term that historically has been, a part of it has been a term of racial hatred. I don't think us as black people should use that as a term of endearment.
And there you have it. We have been discussing the book Just Another End with the author Darius Stephens, and he shared quite a bit of information on the book and also some of the future endeavors that he's going to be engaged in. This is Stepping in the Spirit. I'm your host, G. Shanga Freeman. We'd like to thank DATV for the opportunity to film this segment. We also like to thank our production team, Tangi Lady T Productions, and we'd also like to thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.